Hi, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the CSTA interview series, What is Computational Thinking? The goal of this series is to gain perspectives on computational thinking by visiting with leaders in the field. I'm Pat Phillips, member of the CSTA Computational Thinking Task Force, retired CS teacher, and the editor of the CSTA Voice newsletter. Welcome.
And hi, I'm Joe Kamak, also a member of the CSTA CT Task Force, also a retired computer science and mathematics teacher, and generally I do lots of computer science education consulting. Today, we are delighted to welcome John Woollard. John is a senior teaching fellow within Southampton Education School at the University of Southampton in the UK. Welcome, John.
Hi.
Pat and I have a set of questions. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you. So Pat and I have a set of questions to get our conversation started. But first, John, would you introduce yourself and maybe tell us a bit about your background and current position?
Hi, thank you very much, both of you. And I'm really pleased to be able to talk about my work a little bit. I work at the Southampton University training would-be computer science teachers and working closely with computing at school in the UK. With a responsibility for helping all teachers of ICT become computer science teachers. I first started doing this back in 1978. I arrived at a school. I was head of special educational needs in a mainstream school with their very first computer. And I used it with those pupils who had learning difficulties, and they enjoyed programming. I obviously also taught what was then called computer studies for the grade 10 and grade 12 examinations. I guess that what motivated me was that pupils were doing things then to do with making computers work, and we kind of lost it as the curriculum became more dedicated to people using computers like word processors and spreadsheets, and less into how computers were working. And now the UK curriculum has changed and focuses more on computer science and computational thinking.
Thank you, John. We have a series of questions that we would like to explore with you, and we want to begin our conversation today asking you your experience in describing computational thinking to folks who are unfamiliar with the concept. What have you said, and why do you believe it's an effective description to help them begin their learning about computational thinking?
Computational thinking is a set of thinking skills, and as the way in which we think about it is it's helping people understand complex artifacts or processes or systems. It's a way of looking at things with complexity, that has got complexity, and making it simpler for them in their own minds. So we've identified 5 areas: those of abstraction, algorithm, generalization, decomposition, and evaluation. And we have simple phrases associated with each of those.
Thank you. Thank you. So how has your understanding of CT changed over the past few years? And if so, how and why?
We've made it more formalized because it's now part of our national curriculum. If I could just read to you the first line of the UK's national curriculum, it says, "A high-quality computing education equips pupils to use computational thinking and creativity to understand and change the world." That came out September 2013 and has obviously driven the way in which over the last few years we've been looking at computational thinking, trying to understand it and try to communicate it to both teachers and pupils, the way in which it works. Previous to that, computational thinking was I suppose, simply problem solving, learning how to program, trying to program complex things, but we hadn't got a formal thought to it.
I would like you to put in a plug for the Computing at School organization and their website at some point during this, John. It's an amazing organization and an amazing work that you do in the UK. I suspect that there's been some discussion amongst teachers, and perhaps you've had to I don't want to say argue the point, but certainly distinguish how computational thinking is truly different from the kinds of thinking skills that teachers have been teaching students, for eons. How do you see those two different?
Okay, it's in the name. It's computational thinking. What we're trying to do is that they're using thinking skills, those that I listed earlier, to try to reduce the complexity of something. And that reduction is to the point where they can computer program it. And so that is, you could say, the goal of computational thinking is to reduce complexity down to a point where they can sit and write code that will emulate, simulate, or model the complex thing that they've been looking at or trying to understand. The power of computational thinking is that process. And that's what I'm interested in. One of the things I always keep saying, that computer programming is not the most important part of the computer science curriculum. It's how we get to that point where we can sit and computer program something. The point when we get to a visual or to a set of pseudocode, so we can then sit at a keyboard and make the computer do what we now understand about something. De Bono and his different coloured hats has been quite popular in our primary schools over the past few years, and we always have a little debate in our sessions about whether computational thinking is a mixture of the De Bono different coloured hats, or whether De Bono didn't think about computational thinking and there's actually a seventh hat, a magenta coloured hat. It's an interesting debate, and people say, well, computational thinking has taken lots of ideas from thinking skills arena, and other people will argue, but what we're doing is very special and deserves to have its own hat in the De Bono sequence.
I was not familiar with the De Bono thinking hats visualization. Is that linked to or available from the Computing at School site, or will people just have to?
I think you could Google De Bono and your thinking hats and you'll find it. I must say that it's a very pragmatic approach. It's not got as perhaps a stronger academic underpinning as perhaps some of the computational thinking approaches, beginning with Jeanette Wing's work, and which we feel has got a stronger foundation for our work.
Thank you.
Interesting. I actually joined the Computing at School site, your site, and I do find it really interesting. I get your emails pretty regularly, and those are actually emails that I actually read. In any case, so we know that you've been instrumental in training teachers in England to include computer science and computational thinking at all grade levels. And we'd like to, and I personally would like to learn more from your experiences. Do you think there's an approach to teacher training that is particularly useful or appropriate to prepare teachers to deal with computational thinking? So like, what has resonated with the teachers in England?
Okay. First of all, the plug for Computing at School. 9 years ago, Computing at School was a group of 9 people around a table who thought we have a problem. Now, those people weren't all educationalists. The problem in the UK was we didn't have enough people who were entering into our degree courses, our computer science degrees. We didn't have enough people, some people were expressing, we didn't have enough people going into industry with the right qualifications and the right sort of experience. We had a reducing number of people wanting to study computing past compulsory school age. We had a disinterest in ICT in schools because it was, we thought, about word processing and spreadsheets and using computers rather than experimenting with computers and finding out how they worked. So computing at school built up. It's a grassroots organisation and teachers join it. There is no membership charge. The way in which it's been afforded is by people going out to industry, going to the government and saying, please give us some money to help with the infrastructure. And so we have a website, we have a community website, we've got hundreds of resources. Importantly, we've had 2 projects over the past 4 years. First one was CAS Barefoot, and it was to address, to support teachers in primary schools. The important feature about that was that it employed several primary school teachers to design teaching materials that would introduce any teacher to the computing curriculum. And so that's any primary aged teacher would have an insight into computational thinking, an insight into how computers work. Associated with that, because it was industry supported, was that we had volunteers from industry, from commercial organizations going into our primary schools and talking to primary school teachers, showing them these materials that were produced by primary school teachers and explaining the importance of why we needed computing in the curriculum. That was the approach in the primary school level for the younger children, your K to 7 grades. From grade 7 up to 11, our secondary age pupils, it was a very different approach. It's called CAS Tenderfoot, and here we've used industry money to produce CPD materials for our teachers. Those CPD materials are curriculum deep and curriculum rich. We go into great detail. For instance, one of the units is called Theoretical Computers, and we talk about finite state machines and state diagrams and ideas behind regular expressions and formal languages. And by the end of the one-day session, teachers are able to explain what a Turing machine is and actually model one in front of pupils with chocolates, which is an interesting concept. But that's the importance of the really important feature of the Tenderfoot project is that we're giving computer science teachers who up until a few years ago were ICT teachers teaching skills-based curriculum, an insight into computer science at a much deeper level. So two contrasting approaches. For the teachers of younger children, we're trying to get to every teacher in the school, giving them an understanding of the value of computational thinking. For the teachers of the older pupils, we're getting this deep understanding of the subject areas.
We certainly have plenty. Yeah, we certainly have plenty to learn from you. You're doing a wonderful job out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pat?
We know, John, that you have been involved in lots of areas of educational research, and we're kind of wondering, should research continue to investigate computational thinking? And if your answer is yes, how do you envision that could happen? What do we need to learn yet?
My feeling, I was a teacher up until a short while ago, well, actually 10 years ago, but in the classroom, research is going on all the time. We don't call it research, but teachers are continually trying things out, reflecting on what they're doing and changing what they're doing. And that is the essence of good research, is to try to understand things. But Perhaps that's not communicated enough. So we have teachers who are learning how to do things, and we need to get that communicated to other teachers. So we have another project. The British Computer Society has a certificate in teaching computer science, and as part of that certificate, to get that certificate, a teacher has to engage in this classroom investigation and communicate what they found out. And by building a body of knowledge from teachers, we're hoping that we'll have a better understanding of how we're going to teach our subject and the things that will work. Obviously, the university has got a big role to play. I personally have got 2 PhD students who are looking at computational thinking and thinking skills. There are other PhD students around the country who get together. We've got CAS has created a research group so that these students can get together and talk about the issues of their particular research. Again, it's using people and their interests and their excitements in to bring them together and to communicate to the rest of us what they're finding out.
I find the concept of in the classroom, in the field research combined with the graduate students, the more academic approach, very interesting. It'll be fun, enlightening to see what they come up with and how it's reported out over the next few years. Well, thank you, John, very much. We'd like to end with one last opportunity for you to share anything else that you might like to add that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet.
I think reflecting, and particularly reflecting over the things I've said today, is that it is the power of the teachers in the classroom that's moving our curriculum forward. Yes, it needed an initiative from the Department for Education to say the ICT curriculum's not working, we're going to withdraw that. And yes, it did take a lot of formal people to say, get together to say what the new curriculum is. But the way the curriculum's moving forward is by teachers in the classroom getting together, talking with each other, developing their ideas. And if you can do anything to enable that to happen, I think that's a good way to move forward. We then own what we're doing. It's not being thrust upon us from outside. Okay.
Thank you. It's been just a delight to visit with you today, John. So thank you for sharing your expertise and your insights on computational thinking. As Joe said, we can learn a lot from your experiences and your work. We appreciate you taking your time and your busy schedule to visit with you. And I'd like to thank everybody who's joined us for this broadcast. Thank you.
And thank you, John.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.